British Diplomatic Service, several senior executive roles in local government on the mainland, and she came directly to us from Circular Head Council. So we welcome you, Vanessa, and I think we're in for some lovely, exciting times. I need to advise the public that it is council policy to record the proceedings of meetings of council on digital media to assist in the preparation of minutes and to ensure that a true and accurate account of debate and discussion of meetings is available. This audio recording is authorised by the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015. I also would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomagina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Item 1, record of attendance. We have a leave of absence previously approved for Councillor Leanne Raw. Item 2, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. There is a recommendation before you, councillors, to approve and endorse these minutes. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Who was first? Councillor Hyland, seconded Councillor Bramage. Are there any corrections to the minutes, because they need to be identified and agreed upon at this point prior to taking a vote to adopt the minutes? Are there any amendments necessary? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 3, declarations of interest. Councillor and agenda item. Are there any councillors that have a declaration of interest? I lost my train of thought then. Any staff with a declaration of interest? Okay, moving on to item 4, announcements by the Mayor. Tasmanian Honour Roll for Women. I recently had the pleasure of attending the induction ceremony for the Tasmanian Honour Roll for Women, and I wish to congratulate all of the inductees. In particular, I congratulate the following inductees from our community. Reese Campbell. Reese is a dedicated advocate for the environment, collaboration and literacy. Reese was awarded the Services to Environment, Education, Community, Advocacy and Inclusion. Dr. Mary Lindsay Kill AM. Dr. Kill is considered a trailblazer in family planning and women's health in Tasmania and was awarded for service to health, human rights and justice. So we congratulate both of those awardees. We have also before you the Mayor's communications. There is a recommendation before you, councillors. Could I have a mover for that, please?
So moved.
Councillor Johnson, could I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. Councillor Hyland. Are there any questions regarding my diary?
Just a little one there. I don't know whether it's appropriate or whether you can answer or whether you want to tell me after the meeting. How did your meeting go with the new Liberal candidate?
I could probably say interesting when we finally got to meet.
Right.
With Alan Catamal, who attended as well, and we put forward our case for funding. I'm not sure what we will get out of that, or what promises will be made out of that. So it was a short and sharp meeting, half an hour. Is that right, Alan? Yeah, half an hour.
Short because of you guys or short because of him? Is it?
Well, probably both. I had another meeting to chair that morning, so and he was going somewhere else. Okay. Okay, there is a recommendation before you, councillors. So the motion has been put. Are there any other further questions to my diary? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 4.3, reports by delegates. None have been received. Item 4.4, notification of council workshops. There is a recommendation that council note the following workshops. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Courtney moved.
And I'll second that.
Seconded Deputy Mayor Edwards. Are there any comments or questions regarding this item? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 5, public questions and statements. A response to a question from Mr Berry regarding a dog bag station and rubbish bins at Somerset Beach, and there is an officer's response there. Item 5.2, public questions received in writing. None have been received. We are now at the point of public questions without notice, public statements received in writing, and public statements without notice. So, Mr Palmer, would you like to come forward and give your statement? Before you start, though, I will read out this very necessary bit of information. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council's core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with respect and integrity. We expect our residents and ratepayers to apply similar standards in their dealings with Council. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of Council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I remind everyone that Council's meeting procedures were adopted last year. In particular, it should be noted that a maximum of 3 questions may be asked per person. Any parts to questions are considered questions. All questions to be asked before a response is provided. There is a time limit of 3 minutes per person to ask questions. Once a question is answered, there is to be no debate on that question. Public statements are also limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per person, and there is to be no questions or discussion related to that statement. So I ask members of the public to show proper consideration and courtesy in their comments. So, Mr Palmer, if you would go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I do begin my statement, I want to clarify something. I did put in an online submission regarding the current subject that's been in the newspapers on Friday in The Advocate. That has to do with the speed limit on Sisters Beach Road. I've been speaking to Sally, and I'm not sure that the Council has actually seen my submission, because I think it's critical to anything that I say that that submission be put before Council, as Council is the decision maker on the particular issue, whereas the Council staff merely make recommendations. And I've just had an opportunity to read the report that is in the agenda, which I had not cited prior to tonight. So that's my one question is, has the Council seen my submission? And my second or sub-question from that is, if not, will it, or how will it be processed and considered?
So you addressed that submission to all councillors?
I did the online submission as per what is on the Council website. As a member of the public, I'm not privy to the internal processes of the Council, so I don't know who sees it or what is done with it. All I know is that I submitted it as per the Council website.
Okay, look, I'll hand over to our CEO and she may be able to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr Palmer. I understand the report that you put, the submission you put in, yes, was sent to the officer who has prepared the report tonight and was taken into account in preparing that report. But councillors haven't seen your submission as a separate submission. They wouldn't necessarily do so, but we can certainly send that round.
Well, I would suggest to councillors that as a matter of natural justice, if they're going to make a submission about something that is of direct concern to me, then my position in the matter should be considered, as I believe that the points that I make are relevant, and I don't believe that the report that has been put out by the staff that have prepared that report have really considered a lot of the issues that I have raised, with all due respect to the person who wrote it.
If councillors wish to see that, we can send it round.
I do believe, with all due respect, it's a denial of natural justice and procedural fairness, not only to me, but to those other residents and members of the public who I know have already raised concerns about this issue, as acknowledged in the newspaper article on Friday, that there have been submissions from residents. I would also put it to council that to rely on an internal staff report rather than on submissions from the constituents and also from the Council Community Sustainability and Environmental Advisory Panel, I would say that, whilst not calling it a miscarriage of justice, is certainly a failure to take into account relevant considerations.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. So do you wish to make a statement this evening, and we will ensure that your submission will be distributed to all of the councillors as well, but that will be after this meeting. So do you wish to make a statement this evening?
Well, Madam Mayor, I do, but my question then is the council going to be making a decision tonight on the issue, and therefore it's a total irrelevancy to have my report placed before the council after the decision has been made, or will it be made after the consideration of what I have put in my submission?
Yes, there will be a decision tonight by the councillors.
In other words, Madam Mayor, it would be a total waste of time to then have my report circulated amongst council members post the decision being made. Would you agree?
Okay, so we're at a bit of an impasse. So are you wishing to make a statement tonight?
I'm limited to 3 minutes, I do believe.
You certainly are, yes.
Okay, well.
Mayor, would you allow him to read his submission out to us tonight?
Well, thank you, Councillor. I was going to make a submission that put to the council that my submission be able to be read into the record, no matter what time it takes, for the sake of procedural fairness and consideration by the council before it makes its decision of all the matters that I have raised. Otherwise, with all due respect, Madam Mayor.
One moment, Mr. Palmer. Councillors, you can choose when that item comes up in the agenda to defer it to the next meeting to allow time to consider the submission, so not to take a decision tonight.
May I please ask when that next meeting would be? Third Monday.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts.
So it will be in April, because I'm still here in April. So, okay. So do I take it that a decision will be deferred?
Thank you.
I believe we have to vote on that when it comes up. Whether we, because I'm happy to vote on it tonight, and I'm not going with the recommendation. So I think we need to have that conversation.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. I think that what we are saying is that we will defer the decision around what report has been presented, and that will be in the April council meeting.
Okay. Madam Mayor, for the sake of expediency, if the council is willing to grant me the liberty of reading into the record my report tonight and having it considered, I'm very happy to do that, and it should take no longer than 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, if you would go ahead, please.
Okay, I'll just have to pull it up. Right, okay. It's the question on the form is, please describe the specific inquiry or issue using as much detail as possible. To which I say, my issue is the speed limit of 100 kilometres an hour applying to Sisters Beach Road from approximately the intersection with Port Road and continuing on down into the village of Sisters Beach, where the speed limit reduces for a short distance to 60 kilometres an hour approaching the village and then 40 kilometres an hour within the village of Sisters Beach. I believe that the speed limit of 100 kilometres per hour on Sisters Beach Road is entirely inappropriate and unsafe, and council should consider the reduction of the speed limit to 70 kilometres an hour during the day, but maintaining the advisory speed limit of 45 kilometres an hour from dusk to dawn. My reasons for this submission are as follows. The road is almost completely surrounded by the Rocky Cape National Park, interspersed with several private properties on both sides. This means that there is a large amount of wildlife within close proximity to the road, particularly at night and on any given morning driving out of Sisters Beach, there will generally be roadkill on the road, predominantly paddy melons and possums, but occasionally also bandicoots and other species. It is my view that the measures implemented by Council to date have not been effective in dealing with the roadkill issue, and therefore a reduced speed limit ought to be implemented. Number 2, the road is designated as a multi-use road as indicated by the signs that indicate that it can be used by pedestrians and cyclists. Given that the road has very few pull-off areas and virtually no verge, particularly where it goes around corners, there is nowhere for pedestrians or cyclists to get off the road if two cars were to be wanting to pass in opposite directions. As a keen cyclist, I can tell you that I would not ride this road under any circumstances, as cars simply drive too fast and they have little, if any, margin for error if they come across a cyclist or pedestrian. Whilst it would be rare for pedestrians to be on the road, there is the start of the postman's track several kilometres out of town, and it is not unusual to see people walking on the side of the road in the vicinity of that area. Number 3, the road is a winding road with many bends, all signposted with speed advisory signs. One such sign indicates that the safe speed on the bend is 25 kilometres per hour. The signs on the road on the way down into the village are attached below. The first sign indicates winding road next 6 kilometres. The second sign has a picture of a wombat and next 4 kilometres. The third sign says concealed entrance 80 metres. The fourth sign indicates a right-hand bend and 35 kilometres per hour. The fifth sign indicates shared road, no footpath, with symbols for bicycles, pedestrians and horse riders. As an aside, this sign has been fired at with a shotgun and needs repair. It's been like that for over 12 months. The sixth sign indicates wildlife and 45 kilometres per hour, dusk to dawn. The seventh sign indicates a right-hand bend with 45 kilometres an hour, speed advised. The eighth sign indicates a right-hand bend with 55 kilometres an hour. The ninth sign indicates school bus stop ahead. The 10th sign indicates a sharp 90-degree left-hand bend and a 25 kilometre per hour advisory speed. The 11th sign indicates a winding section with 45 kilometres per hour. I know this is getting tedious. The 12th sign indicates wildlife and 45 kilometres per hour, dusk to dawn. The 13th sign is a left-hand bend indicator and 55 kilometres per hour advisory limit. The 14th sign is a luminous green sign indicating children, probably where the school bus lets kids off. The 15th sign, just before the turn-off to Llewellyn Lake, indicates a right-hand bend and 45 kilometres per hour advisory sign. The 16th sign indicates another right-hand bend and 45 kilometres per hour. The next sign, number 17, is the 60 kilometre per hour speed limit sign, indicating that the village is getting close. The 18th sign is then the 40 kilometre an hour speed limit at the start of the village. Clearly, with all of the above warning signs and the nature of the road being narrow, with few verges and many bends and corners, as well as being a shared road, a 100 kilometre per hour limit is, in my view, entirely inappropriate and dangerous. Council would be well aware that many drivers consider a speed limit to be the speed they should drive at, irrespective of the prevailing conditions. In fact, there is a sign just west of Wynyard on the Bass Highway indicating that 100 kilometres an hour in the wet can be dangerous. It is not unusual when I'm driving up and down the Sisters Beach Road to be tailgated by persons wanting to travel faster than I am travelling. I have spoken to several other village residents who complain about this very same issue. Generally, I find that the maximum speed I can safely travel at up and down that road is from 60 to 70 kilometres per hour. That way I can be prepared to take appropriate action should I come across a cyclist or pedestrians or wildlife. One other point that I would add is referring to the content of the article in The Advocate, the so-called staff report for councillors said that there had been one vehicle accident resulting in property damage in the last 5 years, and that recorded traffic speeds suggest the road's geometry was already effectively governing prevailing traffic speeds. Now, the analogy that I would draw there is that it's like saying to a blind man, it's okay, you don't need those grooves on the footpath, you can just bump into things. Whereas I believe that it's appropriate to provide mandatory limits for people to obey, rather than have them judge what speed they should do on bends and corners. Because I can tell you that it's my personal experience going up and down that road that there are obviously people on that road who don't use it regularly. They overestimate the speed they can go on bends, and they often have to adjust to get back onto their side of the road because they're going too fast down the hill, generally. So that, in essence, is my submission. And on the issue of signposting, there is one 100km/h speed limit sign, and it is immediately coming out of Sisters Village, okay? Sisters Beach Village. There is no other sign with a mandatory speed limit on it on that road. The nearest 100km speed limit sign would be somewhere on the Bass Highway. Nowhere on Port Road or Sisters Beach Road is there a 100km/h sign going into the village. So basically I'm suggesting that it's all guesswork.
So Mr. Palmer, I thank you very much for your for what you have put together.
Mm-hmm.
You have made some very valid points, and we will decide what the future will be of that particular motion when we get to that through the agenda. So,
okay. Am I at liberty to sit and observe?
You are able to stay until we close for close this open part of the meeting, which is quite a while yet.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Council, now we are going into the Planning Authority, and I open the Planning Authority section at 6:23. Item 6, public questions without notice and public statements relating to planning matters. We have none. So, item 6.3, Council is acting as a planning authority with delegations, and the recommendation is, and I'm going to read this out because it's very hard for anyone who's watching on the live feed, exactly what we are voting on. The recommendation is that Council, acting as a planning authority and in accordance with section 6.3 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993, grants authorisations and approves delegations to the officers as detailed in attached schedules A, B, C and D, being Schedule A, Chief Executive Officer, being the General Manager, is appointed by the Council pursuant to S61 of the Local Government Act 1993. Schedule B, Director of Infrastructure and Development Services. Schedule C, Manager Development and Regulatory Services. And Schedule D, Town Planners, revoking all previous delegations previously issued in June 2023. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts has moved.
Second.
Councillor Hyland has seconded. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to this motion? Are there any questions? If no one's speaking for or against the motion, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 6.4. Subdivision 1 into 2 lots located at 952 Murchison Highway, Elliot. The recommendation is that Council, in accordance with Section 51 and Section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme Waratah Wynyard, refuses an application for the subdivision 1 into 2 lots at 952 Murchison Highway, Elliot, on the following grounds. The first one is the application does not demonstrate compliance with Clause 21.4.2 of the Tasmanian Planning Scheme Waratah Wynyard. The dwelling is not sited in relation to the new western boundary so as to avoid conflict or interference with adjacent agricultural use on Lot 2, which may occur once the properties fall into separate ownership. Part 2, the application does not demonstrate compliance with Clause 21.5.1 P1C of the Tasmanian Planning Scheme Waratah Wynyard. The proposal involves excision of more than just the residential use and directly associated development, and includes approximately 2.5 hectares of land actively used for agricultural activities. The existing buildings for sensitive use on Lot 1 cannot satisfy clause 21.4.2 A2 or P2. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Hyland. Councillor Johnson, do you wish to speak to this motion? Are there any other speakers to this motion, please? Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's obvious that we need to protect our agricultural land for obvious reasons, and we're sort of setting ourselves up if we had have approved this for conflict with the houses in that area when the farmer changes his use to do his irrigation, whatever he does. It always creates a conflict, and I don't think we need to be going down that track.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any speakers against the motion? Councillor Bramage, do you wish to speak for the motion?
Not at this stage. I just got a question, if I may, to the planner. Is there any way the developer or the applicant put anything else in a different way where it would be better?
That would probably be a discussion for the applicant to have with us pending the outcome of this council. The planning department and the planning authority does have the capacity to alter a proposal in order to better fit the compliance with the scheme if we need to, but we can't make substantive changes to the application. Anything that we could potentially do with this one would potentially be a substantive change. So the planning department's erred on the side of caution with this one and taken the application as received. Usually if it's something that's a minor tweak, we will have that conversation with the applicant before altering it and making that recommendation. But in this case, it was seen that any potential changes would be substantive, and as it was submitted, it didn't comply with the scheme.
I understand your hands are tied to a certain thing, but it's a pity we couldn't get something in place as a council and officers where we can say to the developer or the applicant, it won't work that way, but if you go this way, it might work. It's a pity. It's just a pity it can't be that simple, isn't it?
Are you asking a question about this, Councillor Bramage, to the planner?
Yeah, it's just a pity. I know what you're saying, but it's just a pity it can't be that simple, isn't it?
I guess the planning department's comments to that would be, yes, we do have discretion to vary standards in the acceptable solution, but that discretion is within set parameters that are set down by the planning scheme. So unfortunately, we still do need to function within those parameters, which don't account for every situation. They're general in nature.
Thank you for that. Are there any further speakers to this motion? There have been no speakers against the motion. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 6.5, outbuildings by 4 and water tanks by 2, respective located at 15 Timothy Drive. The recommendation before you is that Council, in accordance with Section 51 and Section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme Waratah Wynyard, grants approval for outbuildings by 4 and water tanks by 2 at 15 Timothy Drive, Wynyard, subject to several conditions, of which I won't read through. Could I have a mover?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts. Could I have a seconder, please?
Seconded.
Councillor Hyland. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Just as a quick comment in response to Councillor Bramage's musings there, this is a great example of our planning department working with members of our community to ensure that there's a positive outcome for their residences or such. So we're not all bad. We do our best to try and accommodate everyone, and unfortunately, as Jasmine has just mentioned, we're very constrained by what's handed down to us, and our planners do the best they can to accommodate everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. If there have no more speakers and obviously no speakers against the motion, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. I now close the Planning Authority at 6:31. Item 7, matters raised by councillors. Councillor questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Okay.
I have a few questions, so I'll just roll with a few.
One at a time.
Yeah,
Yep.
three. There's three in one question though. So, the first one is on Sisters Beach. I've been contacted by a resident there, and he had asked, has there been consideration to speed bumps in the area? My question is, could we look at a speed reduction measure or a traffic speed assessment in that area? I'm not completely sure of what area until I discuss it further with this person, but the Sisters Beach area, or if a speed reduction for that area is what qualifies from that, or other measures for that area being unsafe, and with the new subdivisions and that bringing in more people to the area.
So the road that you, if I could just ask you a question, the road, is that the boulevard, or is it the road down into Sisters Beach?
I would think it would be like Irby Boulevard, but I'm probably just surmising that. I need to get clarification on that first.
Thank you for that. We'll take that one on notice.
Yep. And my other questions are, when do we think, and I'm happy to take these on notice, when do we think the operation at Seekers Bar and Cafe will stop? With Seekers Bar and Cafe still operating and access to the beach, will be still near the cafe on the access walkway for wheelchairs, mobility aids, and for those who want an easy access or safe access to the beach. Question 2, follow-up. In October, hang on, sorry, I'm just a little bit thrown from our speaker, sorry. So I've had
if you ask your question first.
Yeah, I had could council follow up I had somebody messaged me today and said that a person had fallen over out on the walkway at Seekers Bar down to the ramp. I had this person contact me back in October to have the mound of grass that was encroaching on the pathway to be removed.
So your question is?
And I was just wondering when council could look into that, because this has been going on since August 2024.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The contractor had been asked to do the work but hadn't yet got around to it. There is a site meeting tomorrow and they will be actively chased to do that work.
Do you have any more questions, Deputy Mayor Edwards? Are there any further questions? Councillor Courtney.
3 questions for me tonight. The first one is, I believe that all the councillors received an email in regards to the Tasmanian wedge-tailed eagle and the impacts that the wind farms will have on the population. I'd like to bring that to a workshop. I think that's a discussion we need to have, because if we're going to potentially wipe out the wedge-tailed eagle, it's something that our council needs to be aware of and we need to have a discussion about. 2, I'd like to also bring the whistleblower legislation back to a workshop. I know that this council's gone ahead and done the right thing with whistleblower legislation. However, I'd like to bring it to the state's attention that it's not fit for purpose, and I'd like to do that through engaging with my fellow councillors on why it's not fit for purpose, so we can advocate together as a group. And the third was, I've had a resident request that we review the speed limit for Deep Creek Road. So if we could bring that to a workshop, that'd be great.
Thank you for that. We'll take all of those on notice. Are there any further questions? Councillor Hyland.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Would council be able to invite the Gone Nuts crew into a workshop to give us a little bit of an update on where they're up to with I do believe the next one, and sort of give us a little bit of insight to where the future lies ahead for the race, if that's possible.
that on notice for you, Councillor Hyland, so that and get that information back to you. I don't envisage there will be any problems, but I can't say for sure. Okay, any further questions, please? Councillor Bramage.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my question is, I sent an email from you last week regarding pickleball and meeting with tennis club. I didn't really understand it. Can you give me an update, please, or council an update?
I think that we'll be addressing that a little bit further into the meeting. We're not. No, that's right. We're not. Are you able to please respond?
Through you, Mayor. After the resolution of the council, is that coming up? After the resolution of the council, which resolved to put pickleball line marking on the 2 Wynyard tennis courts, a letter was sent to Tennis to that effect. Tennis then came in to have a meeting. I was acting general manager, so I met with Tennis, who wanted to discuss the issue because they were unaware of such an initiative, not following council meetings. They then met as a committee and sent in a letter. That letter was attached to the email that was sent around, and in that letter the Tennis were requesting a reconsideration of that, and what we were suggesting is that we would bring that back to a workshop after you've all had a consideration of that letter.
Thank you for that. Does that give you some understanding of where we're at, Councillor Bramage?
I guess so. I guess it's a bit frustrating that we own the facilities and new things come along and people don't want to change. I guess that's the frustrating part about it. I guess my next question, Mayor, with all due respects to everybody concerned, when we get a submission in from anyone, it'd really be good to see it in our reports. You know, like it'd be really helpful for us to see that.
So your question is you would like such submissions to be included in our... Thank you.
For sure. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Right, if there are no further questions, we'll move on to notices of motion. 8.1, Councillor Courtney, Transparency Policy. Councillor Hyland.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to move that this item be moved to a workshop, and if I could get a seconder, I'll explain.
Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that.
Yep.
Councillor Johnson seconded that motion. Councillor Hyland.
Madam Chair, and it's fairly obvious if you've read the officers' comments in this, and they've been a standard comment all the way through. With the local government reform, it's expected that there will be changes in the transparency requirements across all Tasmanian councils, so it'd be more efficient for us to wait until such time as we get the results on that, and then for us to deal with what we need to deal with. And the fact that we already have a couple of policies in place, I think it's sort of irrelevant that we do this at this stage. I'd be looking for support.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any speakers against the motion put forward?
I'm against the motion.
Hyland? Sorry?
I'm going to speak against the motion.
Thank you. If you would please go ahead.
Yeah, point of clarification, procedural motion has got to be put.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's a procedural motion. It has to be put without debate.
Okay. There will be no debate. We are going now to put this procedural motion. I'll call for a division. So all those in favour of the motion, the procedural motion put forward by Councillor Hyland, could you please raise your hands? Councillor Bramage, Councillor Hyland, Councillor Johnson and myself. Against? Deputy Mayor Edwards, Councillor Courtney and Councillor Roberts. The motion has passed. Is that right? there is no debate on that particular motion. So we will move on to the next item, which is item 9, reports and officers and committees, community plans update. The recommendation is that Council notes the annual update and closure report for the Community Health and Wellbeing Plan, Age-Friendly Communities Plan and Youth Plan 2019 to 2024. Could I have a mover for that motion?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts moved. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Highland seconded that motion. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to make any comments or open a debate about this motion?
No.
Okay. Are there any comments, Councillor Highland?
Oh, I'll just make the one comment that it's been a good project, this, and it's obviously been a shared one with Circular Head Council, and I'm not sure how long ago it was. We did have a joint meeting, and when we set it all up, and it does good things in the community. So,
thank you, Councillor Highland. As there are no speakers against this motion, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 9.2, the accessibility community conversation. The recommendation before you, councillors, is that council notes the accessibility community conversation notes, and the purpose is to inform the council of the outcome of the recent accessibility specific community conversation held on Tuesday the 11th of February 2025. Could I have a mover?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts moved. Could I have a seconder, please?
yeah, seconded, Madam
Councillor
Chair.
Highland, Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to this motion?
No.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers for or against this motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.3, the Wynyard Sports Precinct. The recommendation before you, councillors, is that council notes the 2024-25 Wynyard Sporting Precinct update to provide an update on the project timelines on the projects for this particular.
So moved.
Councillor Roberts, could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor Johnson, Councillor Roberts, do you wish to comment or open a debate?
No.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers to this motion? Anyone wishing to speak against it? Councillor Highland, you've got
Not
your...
against it, no.
you wish to speak for it?
Yes, certainly do. And I just sort of a bit bemused that people are not continually talking the project up. Considering they got the starts, I think, on the second oval at the high school. I think there's progress been made on the indoor training centre, which is going to be a huge asset to the Wynyard sporting community. Yeah, and we just got to look forward to starting some action at Somerset as well. So, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. Councillor Roberts, you did say no, you had nothing to say. There's no debate. No one has spoken against it, so there is no debate. It's my decision. Thank you. Okay, if there are no speakers against the motion, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 9.4, the Quarterly Information Report, Organisational Report, Performance. The recommendation is that Council note the Quarterly Information Report for the Organisational Performance Department as of 28th of February 2025, and the purpose is to provide information on organisational performance, people and safety, economic development, governance and information systems and risk management. Could I have a mover for that motion?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts has moved. Could I have a seconder, please? Sorry, who was that? Councillor Courtney seconded. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to this motion?
No.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Anyone wishing to speak against this motion? If there are no further speakers, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 9.5 is the Sisters Beach Road speed reduction request. I'm going to ask, are there any councillors who wish to defer this motion? If so, our councillor will need to put forward that motion, an amended motion to this. Deputy Mayor Edwards.
I'm happy to move the motion.
As is.
Seconding.
Just a moment,
sorry.
please. As you're moving the motion as is.
Yes. No, but like I will vote against it, is what I mean.
Sorry.
You're opening debate.
Oh, just opening debate, that's all.
No, I've got to have someone move that amended motion, please.
Move
So
an
moved.
amended motion because I, for one, and I believe that this is the same with Councillor Edwards, are going to vote against the recommendation and that we consider an 80-kilometre speed limit. So I move for an amendment of the motion.
You're moving. Thank you.
Seconded.
Councillor. If you would wait until I've spoken, please, I'd really appreciate that. Councillor Courtney has moved and Councillor Roberts has seconded. Councillor Courtney, would you open the debate, please?
I'm happy to let. No, okay. I don't believe that it should be a 100-kilometre speed limit. I've driven down there quite a few times myself, and I think it's ridiculous, quite frankly, that there's a 100-kilometre speed limit down there. It's dangerous. We've got a lot of wildlife. I've got no problem with it going back to 80. So I disagree with the recommendation that it should be 100 kilometres, and I personally would like it to be considered to be an 80-kilometre speed limit or less. And I'm happy to have other councillors put forward their position on it as well.
Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Yes, I'm fully in support of the amendment. We know that the road is terrible going into Sisters Beach. There are a lot more corners than there are straights on there, and I think we need to protect people, the area and the wildlife, and just because it's a default speed back to 100 doesn't mean we have to go with the default speed. We need to look at the area, and I'd be very surprised to see after us joining with the Sarah group to know of their findings there.
I have been reminded that we need to vote on the motion prior to debating the motion. So I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour of this motion carried unanimously. Deputy Mayor Edwards, if you'd like to continue. Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's fine. All the points that I made before, and I thank the person who come into the gallery and spoke before. But yeah, we know that Sisters Beach is a very windy road, and yeah, we know that lives matter in this. Sorry.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers, please? Councillor Hyland?
I'd like to move an amendment, if I could.
You wish to move an amendment?
Yeah, I do. Well, I'll test the water anyway, but given the fact that...
What's the amendment, first of all?
Righto. That the speed limit of 80 kilometres be from the highway right through to Sisters Beach, down to Port Road, Boat Harbour, because if you think about it... Oh, well, yeah, that's the amendment.
That's the motion.
That's the motion.
Could I have a seconder for that motion, please, for the amended motion? Councillor Brammitt. The stretch. There are other roads that Councillor Hyland has included in his motion, down to Boat Harbour. So I think that I'm not quite sure.
Is the discussion only on Sisters Beach Road? Like if we want to drop them on other roads, is that a different debate?
Councillor Hyland is bringing other roads into it. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if the mover of the amendment that we're now discussing is willing to accept Councillor Hyland's additional wording, there doesn't need to be another amendment.
I'm far more considerate than Councillor Hyland, and I'm happy to have debate.
Councillor Hyland, if you kindly specify your start and stop points again.
Yes, happy to. From the turn off at Boat Harbour to Sisters Beach, and all roads inclusive, because if I could explain that, because we don't want to confuse the road users. We want one speed limit, and by doing that, because there's roads halfway down Banksia Avenue, Dix Lane, they're all 100 kilometres an hour roads, so which they're not even long enough to do 60 on. So we need to get a bit of clarification right across the board, and I thought that was the best way to go about it. It's 80 from one end to the other, all roads inclusive.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland.
Through you, Madam Mayor, does that motion on the screen reflect your intent now?
Well,
that council receives and notes the assessment of the speed limit on Sisters Beach Road from Port Road, turn off to Boat Harbour Beach and all connecting roads, and determines to reduce the speed limit to 80 kilometres an hour.
no, it's from the Bass Highway. Bass Highway. Yep.
From the Bass Highway.
Yep.
Thank you, councillors. That's now the motion for debate.
Right. Thanks. No.
Are there any other speakers, please?
Yeah.
Councillor,
Can I just sort of talk a bit about it then? Yep.
you can wind it up in a moment. Councillor Bramage.
Thank you. I wouldn't have thought this would be so hard. As from the state growth, we've lowered speed limits on other roads very recently. There's probably better roads than this, and done it easy. If we turn back here to a photograph we've got, which you have it on your iPads, a straight section of road. I wouldn't think that road, and it's a council road, meets Australian standards even, with the grass growing up to the bitumen, or over the bitumen. And I guess some of you know what I'm talking about. So, for safety reasons, this is a must. Now, if we're not careful, what we're going to find here on this section of road, along with other sections of road, in the winter time, cars are going to have to move over because there's a farm contractor coming up the road with a big machine or a truck and hit that mud and probably lose control of their car. And if we don't do something with all our roads, we're going to be in serious trouble. And I think it's a no-brainer to have this. Maybe it should go lower than 80. Let's try it at 80 and see what happens. I guess it's reduced after dark, dusk to a speed limit, but we've got to go all the way with it. And look, I just encourage council to support this. It's a no-brainer.
Councillor Roberts, you wish to add to the debate?
Look, I just thank you very much, Mr. Palmer, for coming in and speaking your mind. I really appreciate that. I can honestly say that before the meeting tonight, I was over there with Councillor Bramage, and we're having a look at that road, and we're looking at the pictures of that road, and we're looking at the verge, and we're looking at the non-existent shoulders of that road. And I think you'll find that we as a council ourselves absolutely do agree with yourself and the residents at Sisters Beach. One of the things about all speed limits in Tasmania is that speed limit changes are approved by the Commissioner for Transport. The Commissioner for Transport is the legal authority for setting speed limits on all roads in Tasmania. And so Councillor Bramage himself has found this. He's very passionate about road safety and the roads and the infrastructure of our community, and we've had some roads successfully lowered and others not so successfully. And so what you'll find tonight is councillors that in discussion of this have all decided to take a stand against the Commissioner for Transport and say that this road is unacceptable to be 100 kilometres an hour, and you'll find that I believe that every single member of this council is wholeheartedly behind yourself and the residents of Sisters Beach in making sure that we are providing a safe environment for all citizens. It's a lovely part of the world down there, and we want to protect the wildlife as much as we can. We want to protect the people as much as we can, and with our erosion works, we want to protect loss of life as much as we can, and properties as well. So I want to credit the councillors here for their unified stance on this, and I think that you'll find that once this is voted on, from the comments I've already heard, that this council itself will absolutely take this back to the Commissioner for Transport. Myself and Councillor Bramich were lamenting over there, you know, and this is Ralph Waldo Emerson said, stats and facts often have nothing to do with each other. And we're lamenting that it's saying because there's no loss of life or anything there that it's not worthy of a change. That's the sort of thing we're trying to prevent here. And so prevention is the best cure, and I think that we should all vote on this one, and hopefully yourself and the residents of Sisters Beach will get the conclusion that you're looking for. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. I'm now going to call on the CEO who has something that she wishes to bring forward.
Yes, councillors, it's important that because you are proposing to recommend a change to the speed limit, we need to add a few words to the motion because we have to send that off to the Commissioner for Transport. So after Sisters Beach, just add and forward that to the Commissioner for Transport, just so that the residents are clear what we're doing.
Happy with that.
Agreed.
And forward that recommendation to the Commissioner for Transport.
Okay, councillors, are we clear now on what the motion says and what the process is for us to get this speed limit changed? Councillor Hyland.
I'll just close, Madam Chair.
But didn't we just say if there's no debate, we vote?
Councillor Hyland, if you wish to finish what you were trying to say earlier.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and I just would foreshadow another motion once this one's finished, if that's all right. I'll just foreshadow that. Yeah, look, just to add to that one, it would tidy up a whole lot of loose ends with different speed limits on different little sections of road, and particularly it'd make it a hell of a lot safer for all those tourists that use Sisters Beach Road and go down to Boat Harbour. They've got one speed. So we're actually sort of forward thinking, I would suggest. So closing that, I'd hope that we'll get support around the table. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. I'm now going to put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Councillor Hyland, do you want to foreshadow a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just carrying on from the statement by our Deputy Mayor earlier on, I will move a motion that staff investigate the possibility of speed humps in the Sisters Beach Township area, please. It's worked wonders on the Esplanade at Somerset, and I think it could do the same at Sisters Beach. So. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Is there a seconder for the motion? Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, there's not much more I can say, but I've had phone calls like the Deputy Mayor and I think a few others in regard to all this. And probably the other thing that's a police matter, but scooters are totally out of hand in Sisters Beach. So that needs to be added to the list. Thank you. Looking for support around the table.
Are there any, Councillor Bramage, do you wish to speak to this motion or against this motion?
No, I'm going to speak for the motion.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, I haven't got a problem with that. If we're to speed up hard enough, they're not real pleasant to go over in a motor car, so I guess we've got to slow down. Now, Irby Boulevard is a classic example. There's no footpath, walkway is the road. So I think that's one place that probably doesn't need them. With speed humps, rumble strips, I don't really care. You blokes will be best judge of that. Smarter people than me will work that out, but look, I fully support it.
Are there any further speakers? Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Just a question. Do we need to add a little bit more in there rather than just speed humps? Do we, to investigate or, what else would be good for that area rather than locking in just speed humps?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it could be worded as traffic calming measures.
Yep.
Okay, the mover is happy with that to change that to traffic calming measures. Are there any further speakers to this motion or against this motion? Okay, if there are no further speakers, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. We'll move on to item 9.6. Council issued delegation CEO. The recommendation is that Council, by absolute majority and in accordance with S23 and S22, the Local Government Act 1993 and other legislative authorities listed in Schedule A grants authorisations and approved delegations to the CEO, being the General Manager as appointed by the Council pursuant to S61 of the Local Government Act 1993, the powers and functions as detailed in the attachment of this report. The second part is by special resolution requiring a 2/3 majority in accordance with Section 124 of the Local Government Highways Act 1982, grants and approves the delegations to the CEO as attached under the Local Government Highways Act 1982, subject to the relevant conditions and or restrictions. And the third party's update its resolution of 19th of June 2023 to appoint the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services, Mr. Daniel Summers, to be acting CEO officer when the current CEO is on leave or absent. Could I have a mover for this recommendation?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney moved.
Seconded.
Could I, Councillor Roberts seconded, I think. Is that right, Councillor Roberts? Councillor Courtney, do you wish to speak to this motion?
The only thing I'm going to say is thank you very much to Mr. Summers, who's done an absolutely fantastic job. Every time he's had to step up into the General Manager's position, he doesn't hesitate. He's a great person to operate with, and while I'm very happy that we've got an excellent General Manager that's going to have an excellent relationship with the Burnie General Manager, and that's great for our region, I'm very glad that we're in safe hands, that when the General Manager is not able to attend to the duties, that Daniel Summers is our backup. He's excellent at the job, and thank you, Alan, for stepping up when you've had to lately. Very much appreciate it. You've done a great job.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Are there any further speakers, please? Councillor Roberts.
I just want to say that while I wasn't a part of the process that really procured the applicants for this process as a whole, when the results were brought to us, and with respect to all candidates who I'm sure would have done an excellent job, I just clearly want to stress to the community that the person that's sitting in that chair right now is absolutely the right person to be sitting in that chair. Overqualified even. Great results that we have seen ourselves. And with our resource sharing with Circular Head Council, it makes a lot of sense that you've already seen a little bit in and work with some of our staff and how we operate here. And I just, as well as the Mayor at the start, I just want to say thank you very much, Vanessa Adams, for joining us as our Chief Executive Officer. So one CEO to another, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further speakers to this motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.7 CEO Title Policy. The recommendation is that Council endorses the Chief Executive Officer Title Policy as attached. Could I have a mover for this motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney.
Seconded.
Councillor Roberts seconded that motion. Do you wish to speak to this motion, Councillor Courtney? Are there any further speakers to this motion? Are there any speakers against the motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.8 Financial Report for the period ended 28th of February 2025. There is a recommendation before you that Council notes the financial report for the period ended 28th of February 2025. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts, could
Seconded.
I have a seconder? Councillor Johnson, seconded.
Yeah, I did.
Great. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to...
No.
Thank you. Any other speakers to this motion? Councillor Highland.
Just to congratulate the financial position, and as I'll touch on my favourite, as at the 28th of February, cash on hand 10.9 million, and we're forecast to have 7.6, nearly 7.6 by the 30th of June 2025. I think that's up a little bit, isn't it, what we originally forecast? Yeah. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. Are there any further speakers to this motion? Any speakers against the motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.9 The Senior Management Report. The recommendation before you, councillors, is that Council notes the Senior Management Report and notes the declaration of foxglove as a pest, digitalis species, under the Biosecurity Act 2019, and notes the feedback in the attachments collated for submission in response to amendments to local government legislation. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts has moved. Could I have a
Second.
Councillor Courtney seconded. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Genuinely, it's a great victory that foxglove has finally been declared as a pest, although now we will have the logistical nightmare of dealing with such. So just for those in the community that have asked about that in the past, there it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Bramage.
Has there been any indication or funding offers from the government to councils regarding how we're going to deal with foxglove?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I may have to take that on notice. I'm not aware of any funding.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. It is a rampant pest, and I should imagine it will take a lot of money to get rid of it. Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Just a question that I read in the Senior Management Report. The Easter closure of the waste transfer station is, how's that looking? Is it shut or open?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, there is an error in the council report there. The waste transfer station will be open over the Easter weekend as normal. It's only closed on Good Friday.
You've already spoken, Councillor.
I've only asked questions.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've only got a question. I don't expect an answer tonight, but through you, Mayor, to the CEO, is it appropriate we get on the front foot somehow that we request funding or whatever from the state government? Because every council is going to be after it. Because this foxglove is in every municipality you come to. I don't know how you deal with it, or whether you even can. So I just thought we might have been able to get on the front foot. I don't know. Leave it up to you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we can certainly ask.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bramage. Are there any further questions or comments? I do suggest that anyone who is watching the live feed tonight, that they look at the Easter closures, the curbside collections, and also the information about childcare, so that the users of those services are fully aware of what dates and times that these facilities will be open, or when the curbside collection will occur. Are there any further speakers to this motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.10, 9.10.1. Notes of the Waratah Community Board meeting held on Friday the 14th of February 2025, and the recommendation is that Council receives the notes from this particular meeting. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Hyland, could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Edwards. Councillor Hyland, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Thanks, Madam Chair. No, everything's moving along quite well. As you can see by the list there, a couple of those major projects have been completed, and the new playground, which is a beauty too, has been completed in town. A couple of smaller jobs, but the interesting thing now, we're in mode of having our new community plan put in place. That'll be sort of done shortly, and I think the expressions of interest are already out for new board members, so we can get that in place shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further speakers to this motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. 9.10.2 minutes of other bodies and committees, Sustainability and Environmental Advisory Panel held on the 18th of February 2025. The recommendation there is that Council note the unconfirmed and confirmed minutes of the Sustainability, Environmental and Advisory Panel held on the 18th of February 2025. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Roberts.
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Edwards seconded that motion. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to speak to this motion?
I just want to say they do an amazing job. They win awards and they're doing incredible work that'll last a generation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Are there any further speakers? Deputy Mayor Edwards.
Yeah, no, it's really good to work within this group, and you know, they're on the front foot for the speed reduction on the Sisters Beach Road. So yeah, we just pushed it a little bit further for the safety aspect and the speed for everyone. So it was really good to work in collaboration with that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Edwards. Are there any further speakers? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 10, matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting. The recommendation is that the Council resolves by an absolute majority that the matters listed below be considered in a closed meeting. Could I have a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Johnson moved. Councillor Hyland seconded. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously. Item 11 is closure of the meeting to the public. The recommendation that the Council resolves by an absolute majority that go into closed meeting to consider the following matters at 7:14 p.m. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
I'll move that.
So moved.
Councillor Roberts, could I ask who seconded that motion, please? Councillor Bramich. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously.